which is if a mayoral appointment is brought forward but voted down by the council, unless the council drafts a resolution explaining why that person is unfit to hold the office, because it says unqualified or unfit, but
Right.
if you're an elector in the city, you're qualified.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to kick dirt on people publicly in a public meeting, then you have that opportunity. Otherwise, a sitting mayor can wait out that process and have their appointment seated even with a down vote from the council.
Right.
That's how you understand it, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And I had here House Bill 2217, but you're right, the statute you're talking about is the one that says that the appointments are made, well, the quorum is three, or the majority of the seated
Sure.
council members, and the appointments are made by the governing body. So in any case, I just think both of those, that charter ordinance and that state statute just really stick our necks out, and I just think in an effort to do some process improvement, especially since we have the very first largest decision we're going to make is the appointment, that we ought to take our time and not get too focused on solving that problem quickly, but solving the larger problem of how that process is done, so that we don't end up with, what we had before, which is obviously not what the citizens in this last election voted for. So I'll just kind of stop there and let you guys chat about it.
Well, I'll talk to you. First, I think that this whole appointment process, and specifically Ordinance 19, has been a topic of conversation for 3 years. And I agree, Larry, that, there's people that, first I'll say, I think that we were kind of in a unique situation. There was a spiral effect that occurred, and so I don't know that that's hopefully ever going to happen again. But I do understand that there's a want probably from most of the community for us to at least have some discussions about that. But from my perspective with this appointment process, I think two things. I think that, first of all, I think the mayor has done a very good job as far as kind of opening that up and the advertisement of that and including council. So I think that's a positive step. And secondly, I think, to me, this is a little bit different in the fact that it was a sitting council member who was elected mayor, so I would assume people are going to know that, somebody is going to be appointed to that position. So I guess I'm not as apt to say we need to hold off and evaluate. I mean, I think people expected that was going to happen. So that's my perspective.
Well, the one thing that I would mention here, last June, when we appointed Councilman Randy Grzegorczyk, we had a conversation at the end of the council meeting about looking at the charter ordinance and the appointment process, as well as elections. Heck, I remember Heath sitting over there saying, well, I'd like to hear your ideas, Chris, because that was something that I thought that we should have been talking about after we made the last appointment. I don't know that this is something that we should put off. I agree with what Christy was saying, as far as there is an expectation level there that this is the way that it was going to be, and I have tried to open the process up. However, I think that there are several different pieces involved with this charter ordinance, and rather than try and hash that out on the front end, I think that we get the appointment made. I will tell you that you will have a commitment from me as mayor to move this item forward, but I think that we should do it. We should identify what the pieces are that need to be massaged or broken and changed altogether, and we should do it one piece at a time, maybe at a work session, too. We're gonna be busy with budget over the summer, but that doesn't mean we can't focus on one portion of the charter ordinance at a time over the course of the summer, so that when the budget session is put to bed, we can finally have the last big conversation about what we want to do with the charter ordinance, and maybe we repeal that one and institute a new one, or maybe we repeal that one and institute a couple of new ones. And honestly, maybe we can address some of those things just through regular ordinance. But I don't think that I think that if we don't seat somebody and try and fix it before we get the new person seated, that we're creating a crisis where there doesn't have to be one. And I think that, we're going to do a lot better if we manage the process instead of having to manage a crisis. And if we don't get somebody seated and we've got candidates, then, there's going to be a cloud over our heads waiting for that appointment to be made.
Well, I see both sides. I see both sides of this. I'm going to kind of mention. I totally agree with Larry that we need to just have a very serious discussion on trying to basically alleviate the conflict that he's mentioning, and that is about the fact that with a requirement for a 4-person quorum, we're already pinning ourselves into a corner. And it's not just with the issue of appointment. It's also with other issues that require ordinance changes, and it's gonna really affect us. It is creating that particular ordinance is creating a crisis by itself when you only have 4 council members on the council. Let's say we have a single one of us within this next couple of weeks that has some sort of emergency and cannot be there in the chambers. I'm just saying that because I'm not there right now. But it is creating an issue, and I think it needs to be resolved, and I think that we need to make that a much higher priority. If that means we have to, within a work session, devote some time to it, even during the budget cycle, I think it needs to happen. I also see your point, Chris, that we don't want to create a cloud. We don't want to create a crisis from the perspective of our governing body, necessarily by waiting, but I think we need to be much more deliberative in the selection process. We need to have input from all the council members, not just 1 or 2. So I'm going to take it from both perspectives. I hope I don't sound like I'm sitting on the fence, but I do believe we need to address these issues. I think they are becoming a critical impediment to the way the council operates, and so I'll just leave it at that, and you guys can continue to discuss. But that's my thoughts on it.
It's the same as the last time we brought it. To me, every time we bring this to the table, we do a really good job at identifying where the problems are, but very seldom is a solution brought to the table. I'm ready to have the conversation where we talk about the solutions instead of spinning, because I think the problems we brought up are the same ones that we talked about last June, yet from them we've not brought a solution to the table. And for us not to consider solutions to a perceived problem, then we'd be shortcoming every piece of it. So I'm ready to take that step. I think we all have been ready to go there, but like others have said, I don't know that because of the complexity of the issues that always get brought to, that it's something that can be resolved in a timely fashion for us to still be able to conduct business prior to this upcoming appointment. I think we need to have an appointment in place so we do meet the quorum pieces that are necessary and move forward efficiently, and then have a sitting council that has 5 seats filled with a mayor to develop whatever those new changes need to be. So my stance on it hasn't really changed from when it was last time. Let's if there's solutions to consider, bring the solutions up and let's go from there.
Well, and
I agree.
I'd kind of like to identify something to talk about starting at a work session in May.
We're getting some feedback.
Yeah, I think we need to put it on the calendar. I think we need to explore those solutions. We need to do it sooner rather than later. I don't think we can wait and let other things take priority over it.
So I guess what I've heard is that we, as Steve had mentioned and as Heath had mentioned or confirmed, that really we do have a crisis in a sense that Charter Ordinance 19 with 4 council members and a quorum of 4.